Hi there everyone, just some ordinary dude here, and here's my latest podcast, and today I am joined by a very popular artist within the Loud House fan community, Alejindio. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is that correct?
It was my first name, Alejindio, but yeah, Alejindio sounds correct, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and today basically we're going to do a bit of a sequel to the first artwork podcast that I did, where basically we're just going to talk about, well, we'll start with you, Alejindio. So obviously you've been around pretty much since the start of the show. I do vaguely remember like some of your earlier bits of artwork that you did back when they were like handmade drawings. You did a lot of stuff to do with, what was it, Requiem for a Loud? That was one you did a few drawings of, if I'm not mistaken. And you also did quite a few of like a few fan characters and stuff like that. And that's how you started, sort of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And how did you? First of all, how did you become a fan of the show? Should I say? Maybe it's best to start there.
Well, to be honest, at first I wasn't a huge fan of the show, but then I started to see, in YouTube and the internet about the show, about how good. I mean, the first season, right? And some friends told me that the show was very good. I should watch it. I don't know. I just started to watch it, because and I saw there were a lot of fan arts already about the show, a lot of fanfics,
Yeah.
and I just gave it a shot, and I saw it. I really loved the concept, one boy and ten sisters. I mean, that's something that's, let's be honest, that only happens in animes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like great potential with character and comedy and family dilemmas that this show's concept can tackle, and some of it has. There have been many great episodes over the course of the show's run. There are some issues the show's always had with portraying characters or focusing on the right things. But overall, it has done a lot of good stuff. I think that's pretty safe to say.
Yeah.
But in your case, obviously, so when you became a fan and you really liked the show's concepts and everything, you started doing a lot of artwork. And over time, you evolved from doing those sort of basic handmade black and white drawings to doing what is now some very good and very fastly produced, I must say, digital artwork. Digital coloured artwork that you now do, and obviously looking through all your artwork from over the years, it's evolved and improved over time, as naturally it should. And obviously now you're probably best known for doing commissions, with your two biggest clients being probably The Amazing Peanuts and Dreadnought Kirov 310. How about did all that come about? Because you've done quite a lot of work with them, quite a lot of commissions and everything. How did that all come around?
Well, at first when I was starting to do my commissions, at first I just started with art, for other, for myself,
Yeah.
I started to do a lot of the Loud House art, and Amazing Peanuts was someone who always commented. He was always, every pick I did, he comment. There was a comment from him.
Yeah, so he was like one of your number one fans, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and one day he just, how can I explain this? Let me start with this. At first, I really wasn't that. I mean, I didn't have confidence to do commissions,
Yeah.
because the artist thinks. I mean, am I good enough? What if nobody likes my art to pay for it?
Well,
But something that really gives me, the courage to start commissions
yeah.
is that I was scouted. I don't know if you ever knew about this, but I was scouted to do art for a fan game that was going to be for the Loud House about a dating game. I know.
Oh, a fan game was going to get your art was going to get used for a fan game. Did this fan game ever get made by any chance, or
Mm, the game was, if I'm not mistaken, was going to be called Night of the Stars. It was a dating game where Lincoln could, invite girls to go to the prom,
Yeah.
and the one in charge contacted me. He liked my art, and he wanted me,
Yeah.
to know model sheets, backgrounds, and yeah, it was of course for free. It was not a paid job, but I really like it because I started to do backgrounds, like the show, model sheet for characters, and I really started to get confidence with that. My
Yeah.
hands started to get really used to draw the Lighthouse characters,
Yeah.
and I really don't know if the game is ever going to come out.
Yeah.
As far as I know, it's still in process, but my part is already done. But either it comes out or not,
Yeah.
I'm really grateful with them because
Yeah.
they really gave me the courage to
Yeah.
start to have confidence in my art.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, well, I must say, I mean, your artwork, your style is very similar to the actual show at this point. Like, it's very closely resemblant. Um, and also, you managed to do them so quickly. I mean, I've done commissions with other artists, and some of them have had quite good production times as well. But I'd say you're like the quickest one I've ever worked with, and you do high quality artwork for that time as well. How do you manage to do it so fast? Like, it's really impressive, actually.
Thanks. Well, first of all, trust me. I mean, the Loud House I have to say, is practically my main job. I mean,
Yeah,
practically every commissioner asks me for the Loud House. Of course, there are some people that ask me about other shows, but yeah, the Loud House. I'm very used to the Loud House,
yeah,
and I have, and since Amazing Peanuts asked me about the many characters and sometimes the same characters.
yeah,
I have a lot of models. I have a lot of reference about them, so I can base new work.
yeah,
But yeah, I practically have a lot of assets for the Lab House
yeah,
already. Assets that I have been accumulating over
yeah.
the years,
Oh,
so
yeah,
that's why we can work pretty fast. At least the show.
yeah.
I try to keep up with other shows, but no, it's fair to say the Lab House is the show I can draw the fastest.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, basically, you've just got so experienced with drawing the characters that you find it relatively easy and quick to just make them do more drawings on them. So yeah, fair enough. I mean, as of right now, looking at your Deviant art, you've got, was it just
Mm-hmm.
over 1,100 images on there, and I'd willing to bet at least 1,000, if not more, of them are Loud House related. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yes.
obviously, yeah, after doing all that, I suppose it makes sense. But yeah, absolutely, you've improved a lot over the years.
Yes.
I mean,
And
what?
I
Yeah,
didn't, did you check right there? I didn't start with the Wild House. Did you check what show I started with?
well, I seen, if looking at this DeviantArt page of yours, a few images before your first Loud House one, you had a couple to do with like the My Little Pony franchise. There's a couple there on there at the very start. And there's
Yeah, that's
also,
hilarious.
yeah, your first image is something called Keep Going, which is, oh yeah, that is also film fiction. It's some kind, yeah, some sort of MLP based thing by the looks of it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I started with My Little Pony, with fanfic
yeah,
with My Little Pony. Draw
yeah,
from to other artists.
yeah. I mean, I suppose it makes sense because when you think about it, MLP, you could argue, is sort of a predecessor in the sense that it's a show that predominantly features a very like a female main cast, but its sense of appeal is to everyone, boys and girls, adults and children alike. And the Loud House is very similar in that way. So I suppose yeah, a lot of people who are fans of My Little Pony in the early 2010s would have probably became fans of the Loud House a few years later. So absolutely, that sense of progression kind of makes sense. It's kind of like MLP is the predecessor to the Loud House, and then you could also argue the Powerpuff Girls was the predecessor to both, but that's another thing. They're all kind of the same in that way, if that makes sense. But But yeah, so obviously, yeah, you've come along a lot over the years, and at this point now, obviously, I've started doing a fair number of commissions with you as well. And yeah, absolutely, I've been more than satisfied with the artwork you've done for me so far. So that's all really well and good. Yeah, really good stuff. But what about your opinion on, say, some of the other? I'm assuming you like follow some of the other artists in the fandom community as well. What do you make of some of them? Who would some of your favourites be?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question, please?
So I'm assuming you follow the work of other artists in the Loud community as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if so, which ones would you say are your favourites? Like, who comes to mind?
Well, let me see here because well, once maybe this will be, something. I don't know if how can I say this. There's an artist I really like because I mean he also draws the Loud House very good and other shows.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you hear about JaviSuzumiya.
So who was it?
JaviSuzumiya. JaviSuzumiya.
I'm trying to think now. I've probably seen some of their artwork. The name doesn't ring a bell, but yeah.
Right now he's drawing two comics. One is "It's Not Your Fault,"
right,
and another is a Love Potion that is a adults comic.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. Look, I really like his art. He's very good. He also, draw other shows, but another one. Let me check here. Just 1 minute. I just want to see another artist. Just 1 minute, please. Wait. Oh, wait. Julex is another one I really like. Julex93, I believe he's his full name, artist name.
Yeah.
I really like his art. He also has OCs I really like very much.
Yeah.
And he even was working as well in the project I told you in the fan game.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, I work alongside with him.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose there's a number of them. I mean, I touched on quite a lot of notable fan artists in my first video. One I did actually forget to mention that I really should have mentioned because I did quite a few commissions with him as well before I did some with you. You ever heard of the artist Easy7?
Easy7?
Yeah.
Maybe not in name. Maybe I saw some of his art.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I did a few commissions with him, and perhaps my most notable one was I did like an image of Punguari from the Casagrandes movie fighting one of my OCs, and it actually became popular enough that it got a daily deviation. It got thousands of views overnight, and it was like it became really big, and I was like, oh wow. So that was a thing. Yeah, he's a really talented artist as well. Does some really good stuff. Mostly Loud House based, but a bit of other stuff as well, like a bit of the Owl House and a few other things as well as that.
Yeah, and I saw some of. Yeah, I found him, and yeah, his art is very good too. And the last one, I'm sorry, it's just to continue with your question. And I wanted to find this one because his name is a little. I never remember his name, but I love his art.
Yeah.
Is Ruhisu art?
Oh, Ruhisu. I think I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's quite popular, isn't he? He makes a lot of very high quality artwork. A lot of stuff like with Lenny Loud and all that sort of thing. I've seen some of his artwork. Very, very good, high quality stuff. His commissions. Sorry, carry on.
No. Yes, I was just saying that as an artist, I have to admit it.
Yeah.
Maybe he is one of the best right now. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, I like to like him.
Yeah, he's really good. A couple of others from the past, I don't think they're very active in the community anymore. You might remember them. There's a few like Coyote Rom from years back. Do you remember them?
Very little, yeah. The names
They
rings
were
a bell.
around very early on, like in 2016 and 17, but I think they left soon after that. But in the early days of the fandom, I would have said absolutely they were the number one artist.
Yeah,
And another
I
one was
still
yeah,
remember. Yeah,
and another one would be the Fresh Knight, who also isn't very active anymore, but they were around for a few years and made again some very high quality Loud House artwork.
yeah. I don't know. I like to know why they didn't continue. I mean, they were very good. Right now,
I
they will be.
guess they just moved on. A lot of people stopped being that invested in the show, or just moved on to other fandoms, or just had other things in their life. I guess it is a shame in one way because I would have loved to have seen more work from them. But it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen. I mean, I seen those. Yeah, there were many good artists. I mean, even when I started with My Little Pony, I remember that I saw many good artists about that show too, and right now they're just disappeared as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, remember when I asked you the other week about are people in the deviant art part of the community leaving? The reason I sort of asked that is because I've noticed, especially with the Loud House wiki, a lot of people are leaving. The fan base is dwindling and slowly starting to fall apart, I think, and it's a bit worrying. It's a bit of a shame, if I'm honest. I mean, there's a lot of bad parts of the fandom, but I don't want it to die.
Yes.
I like the fact that like there's a community, an active following surrounding this franchise, and obviously if it does die or become so small that it's insignificant, that would be a real shame. I mean, the show's still going
Yes.
now, so imagine how much it might dwindle once the show stops airing. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I really love the Loud House,
Yeah, I mean it's.
it's my main product, if I have to say it myself. But most of all, I really like to the show to continue. But we have to admit it, the show. I mean, right now there's some episode that I really like right now. But yeah, it's not like the first seasons.
Well,
Um,
but it's weird because I've always sort of had this distinction. The earlier seasons, the main strength they had is that they focused more on the stuff people wanted to see, the main family dynamics and all that. The problem they had is that the execution was sometimes botched, so they'd make the characters seem too unlikable, or give them a hive mind, or make it too mean spirited. But they did focus a lot more on the things that people were interested in. The later seasons are executed in almost every way, like technically better, like the characters are handled better and all that, but it doesn't always focus on things that are that interesting. It focuses on characters or story ideas that people just find a bit mundane. And I think that's the thing between the early season and the later season. I don't think one era is particularly better than the other. I just think it's gone in its own direction, and it is still a very good show, but it doesn't always focus on the right things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, when I saw the latest seasons, I mean, in the first season, this is my opinion, okay?
Yeah.
In the first seasons, even when this was a cartoon, you can still believe they were humans. Now I just believe it's too cartoonish. I mean,
You mean it's too surreal? Like they bring in things
yeah,
like lots of robots and science and
the
ghosts and
very
gods and stuff like that. I mean, to be
the,
fair,
the,
yeah.
I'm sorry. There were two episodes that really. I mean, I still like the show, but there were two episodes that really, really get me down with the show.
Yeah.
The first one with the Lisa's time travel.
Oh,
I
you mean
mean,
Time Trap?
yeah, no, when she went to a scientist institution and she starts to miss her family and she wants to come back,
Yeah.
but instead of admitting that she misses her family and she wanted to come back, no, let's go time travel, and nothing of this ever happened. I mean,
Well,
they really miss a good chance of character growing,
well, yeah. I mean,
development. I mean,
well, I
development.
suppose the character still did grow in the sense that she made that decision to go back, however she chose to do it. I mean, you could argue, yes, she could have gone back and, you know, actually confronted her family and apologised and said she wanted to come out. And maybe that could have made for a more dramatically rich ending. But to be fair, I still think the character growth part of it works because she still did make that decision to go back to them. So it still sort of works. It's just, you're saying it could have been done in a slightly different way. I suppose I get that, but for me, it's not that big a deal. Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. Sorry.
Yeah.
And the second episode is what Lola and Lana's birthday party. I mean,
yeah.
Really, I mean, I understand that sometimes the family let Lana being as how she is, very dirty, real hygienic. But when I saw in the cake shop, the cake owner letting him do that, that cake. Okay, I mean, really,
this is actually something I've debated with my friend Fictional Media Bully, because he's a very big fan of Strife of the Party, and to be fair, I like the episode as well. But I will admit, it was a bit weird, the ending, like with how gross Lana made the party. And you're just wondering, like, would everyone really be okay with this? It was a bit weird, but
the cake shop owner, he didn't do anything.
It was a bit of a weird ending, that one, but I still liked the episode because it did have a lot of character growth for Lana and Lola, and Grey Griffin absolutely stole the show with that episode. I must say, she did an absolutely brilliant performance as both twins. Like, remember the scene where Lana finds out Lola was lying and they have a bit of a confrontation about it, and Grey Griffin just makes that scene work so well. I've got to be, give credit where it's due. But I will admit, the ending is a little bit weird. I'm still a little bit on the fence about that myself. I like Strife of the Party, but it is the fact that they just sort of say, they have such a black and white perspective on it. Like, Lola's purely in the wrong. And I'm like, I can see what they're going for, that Lola hogs too much away from Lana. I get the message they're trying to present. But at the same time, she does kind of have a point that Lana is making the party overly gross to the point where some of the guests might not appreciate it. So they could have had a bit more of a shade of grey in like the whole moral dilemma between the two twins in that episode, I will admit. But I still like that episode, to be fair. I still like it quite a lot.
Yeah, I just saying that, sometimes, I mean, common sense really abandons the show sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the show is still a cartoon. So, I mean, you have to have some leeway with, like, certain things, like how plausible a certain plot point is, or how realistic a certain plot point is, to a point.
I really do believe that will never happen in the first seasons.
Yeah.
I'm very
here's the thing. Would the show still had some unrealistic aspects in the first season? Do you remember Trashy the garbage monster that he debuted in the first season, if you remember correctly? And Lisa also created big tanks and stuff in the first season, if you remember, in the episode Snowboard where they do the snow days. So there's quite a lot of that stuff. So even in the earlier seasons, and it was more downplayed, the show did do things that were quite cartoonish, because it is a cartoon. I will admit, sometimes they go a bit far, but I don't think it's that bad. I think for the most part, the show contextualizes the cartoonish aspects reasonably well. There are only maybe a few times where I think, okay, this certain thing didn't benefit the narrative or didn't benefit the characters. Like, you said you hadn't watched the recent seasons that much. Is that correct?
Yeah, there is at least the 7 and 8. I still have some episodes to watch.
Okay, I probably shouldn't. I had an example I was going to use, but it's from season 8. And it. Yeah, do you mind a few minor spoilers of one episode?
Okay, sorry, again?
Do you mind a few minor spoilers of one episode? I'll try and keep it as vague as
No problem. No problem.
I'll keep it as vague as I can. But there is an episode recently that came out in season 8 where it's about Lucy not being like able to pass her gym class, and they actually allude to the idea of, oh, Lynn could teach you. And then they don't do that because she's scared that Lynn will be like a drill sergeant. So instead, they resurrect a ghost of an old athlete from like 100 years ago. And she instead teaches Lucy how to do it. And I'm like, you could have just done it with Lucy and Lynn. I do think that would have been, like, in that instance, adding the cartoonish element to it didn't help. I will admit sometimes that can be an issue. And that recent episode did prove that point. Because I'm like, you don't need this ghost. You can just have Lynn and Lucy do an episode together. And that would have been, I think, stronger. But, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I told you, I still like the show. I mean, I really believe it's still very good. But there are some times that I really said, oh, come on, seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it is a cartoon, so you have to have some leeway. But I will admit, sometimes it's fine to do something cartoonish, but some other times, if the narrative doesn't benefit from it, then maybe you should just keep it a bit more grounded and down to earth. Like some episodes from season 6 that were really strong, was it season 7? The episode Sleepstakes, where Lana has a sleepover with her friends or whatever, and it's a very grounded, in reality, down-to-earth story. It's just a very relatable narrative, focusing on Lana and her friends and the rest of the siblings to a lesser extent. And they didn't really have anything overly cartoonish in there, and if they did, that probably wouldn't have benefited it. So sometimes it's fine to do something big and outlandish. I mean, some of my stories that I do try to make a lot like the actual show, sometimes I'll include cartoonish stuff in there. But equally, I know when to keep it grounded, if that makes sense.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, a lot of the artwork I've had you do for me is from a story I've recently rewritten called The Loud's Finest Hour, which I sort of written to resemble an eventual ending for the series. So think about in the most recent seasons, a lot of antagonists and villains have started showing up. So sure enough, have them all team up against that. I know it's not a very original concept, but it is something that's suitably big for a finale, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
So obviously that giant robot I had you design for me. Basically, he's a robotic god version of one of my main OCs, who I call Viribus. Who's like, I actually created him in 2018, so he's actually a villain that predates all the show's actual villains. A lot of the times I will do something and then the show will do something sometime after, and I'm like, I'm not sure if somebody in the staff's following my work here. This keeps happening.
It's like that really happened to me. Like, I don't know if you a person that unfortunately I don't have any contact with him anymore. He asked me to draw the 25. You know that the show was going to start with 25 sisters.
And apparently they're all going to be bunnies. And I think they did an episode about that, didn't they, in season 3? What was it?
I don't know if you saw that I drew the 25 cousins.
25 rabbits or something. What was the episode where they did that? They did an episode that was like that, didn't they? What did they call it? Season 3, Loud House. I'm sure it was from season 3. I can't remember the name.
White hair?
Yes, that was it. White hair. And and obviously that was what the show was supposed to be about in the first place. And I'm like, already the show does kind of struggle with the cast as it is. Imagine if you doubled it from the start. Like, you would never be able... I don't think they'd be able to do it. I mean, nowadays, the show is very expansive in terms of, like, the world that it's built and the cast of characters that has grown. Like, it's almost as big as, like, the Simpsons cast. So obviously, some of the characters are better and more developed and more likeable than others. Not all of them are that great. I do think they overuse certain characters. Flip, Scoot, Cheryl and Meryl, Bol Hoffner, etc. They're fine characters, but it's like, we're not watching the Loud House for these people. You know, we'd love to see more of, well, to be honest, some of the sisters sometime, and also some of the Casagrandes family, and some of the other side characters that don't get enough screen time or exposure. You know, there is an issue with the creative direction of the show right now, I will admit, even if the show's still very good.
Yeah, I mean, you know, until now, there's still thousands of fans that craves for Tavi's return, and she never did.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's another thing. Remember that episode where Luna burns her hands, and they need a replacement? And I thought, why not Tavi?
Yeah. They do forget about a lot of one-shot characters, but that was the episode Music to My Fears, if I'm not mistaken. And they introduced Nina, who is also a fairly good character. Although she was a composite of all the other main characters. Like, if you think about it, Nina, she shares Luna's passion for rock music. She likes animals, same as Lana. And she looks like Ronnie Ann and rides a skateboard. And it's like, she's those three characters put together. But it kind of works, even if it's completely unoriginal.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought about that, and you really have a point there.
Yeah. I mean, they do that a lot, but yeah. I mean, I've heard recently there is going to be a season 9. Apparently, it's 2. Even though we're barely into season 8, apparently there's already 2 episodes revealed for season 9. I don't know if it's true or not.
Oh.
I mean,
I really believe there were rumors that in the season 8 they're gonna show Lucy's eyes.
Oh yeah, I've heard rumours about that. I don't know if they'll do it or not, but we'll see. I thought they were going to show it in No Time to Spy, but obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah, I really believe that if they do that in season 8, there is not going to be a season 9, because, you know, I really think that's something you keep in secret until you know your show is going to an end.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I suppose so, but I suppose one thing I'll ask you before we wrap up, because we're over 30 minutes in now, believe it or not. Yeah, we always ramble on. I called this series 10-minute talks. It's never anywhere near 10 minutes. I need to change the name. I really need to change the name. But one other thing I'll ask you is, when do you feel the show should end? And do you feel like the show's premise could still do a lot more? And do you believe, like, one day you'd be open to the idea of a reboot, provided it had the right ideas behind it?
Well, look, I really think, first of all, the show, I mean, I still think the show can go on, you know, maybe a couple of more seasons.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 seasons. And I really heard rumors. I don't know if you did the same. I heard rumors that there was a spin-off plan with a time skip, where the sister will be, you know, they grew up a little, around 2-3 years. I heard rumors about that, but you know, rumors are rumors.
Yeah, a lot of it's rumours. Yeah.
I really wouldn't mind a spin-off about that, because, you know, I really don't want the show to end.
No.
But when it should end, I really think the show can go on around a couple more seasons. I really don't want it to
season 9 or 10 or something like that, you think?
Yeah, I really don't want to be another SpongeBob, you know?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think the show could, go on another couple of seasons. And here's one thing. When the show does reach its final season, I hope the staff know in advance that it's going to be the final season. Because if they know that, suddenly all restrictions are off. Like, in that last season, they know it's going to be the end anyway, so they could just go balls to the walls and come up with the absolute best ideas and stuff that we've always wanted to see that they'd never really done. Like showing Lucy's eyes, for example. Like, you know, having Lynn be a bit more heroic. Like, Luna having more interests outside of rock music. Like them doing something big like The Loud's Finest Hour. They could just go balls to the walls and give us, like, really go all out in that final season and give us the absolute best ending run that they can give us. I'd love them to do that and just see what they come up with when they feel like, okay, we don't need to restrict ourselves, we don't need to play it safe to get another season, we know it's the end, let's go for it. I'd love that to happen, you know?
Me too. I mean, or this can happen as well. You know, in the first season, you remember that we couldn't see the parents' faces. You know,
Yeah.
and it was a really huge reveal in the
Yeah, I mean,
seasons.
it's been so long now, you sort of forget that, yeah, they had the Charlie Brown or Ed, Ed and Eddie approach where all the like the parents' faces weren't shown for some weird reason.
Yeah, and this is my question for you.
Yeah.
You believe? Let's say that they revealed Lucy's eyes in this season, in the eighth season.
Yeah.
You believe they will go to start doing Lucy's new sprites for the next season?
Oh, you mean like they'll start? Yeah, you mean they'll start actually like they'll redesign her character so that her eyes are now permanently visible after that. Yeah, I mean they might do that. I mean it depends. I'm not sure if they'll actually will reveal her eyes. It might be like one of those Ed and Eddie things where you could never see under Double D's hat. They may never show it. I'm on the fence as to whether or not they actually will show it, or like Kenny from South Park, they actually did reveal his face a couple of times, but then in that instance they went back to just having him with a hood on, if you remember. So they may do that with Lucy. They may just show her eyes once and then just say, you know what, we can't be bothered. We're just going to use her normal sprites from now on. Go back to covering them again. I mean, here's the thing: they only redesigned one of the main characters when they did the Season 5 time skip and allegedly made them all older. They didn't change any of the designs then, and they had the perfect reason to at that point. So, if they did show Lucy's eyes, I don't think they'd change it like permanently. I think it would just be a one-time thing, and they'd go back to her being covered for the... Because it's almost like a main part of her character design now. You know, you think of Lucy as the one who you can't see her full face. I don't think they'd change that at this point. Like with the parents, it was only one season, and they weren't a big part of that first season, so it wasn't that big of a deal for them to reveal their faces at that stage. Now, 8 seasons in, I don't know if they do the same with Lucy. I think they just keep her as she is, if that makes sense. That just feels like what they do. But I could be wrong, you know, I could be talking crap.
Or they can come with something like, you know, it was fun to show my eyes, but I'd rather to not show it to anymore, and that's it.
Yeah.
Or, that's it. She just doesn't show them anymore, and that's it.
Yeah, I guess.
Keep using the same sprite.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll see what the show brings in the future. We'll see what creative decisions they make or don't. Maybe they will start showing Lucy permanently with her eyes open. I mean, I noticed you and Amazing Peanuts have started redesigning a lot of the main sisters recently. And, you know, some of those are pretty cool looking designs, actually.
Yeah, basically another artist. Well, he always said it, but yeah, I know that those.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know if the show would actually redesign at this point. I believe that's the decision they would make, is they'd keep them the same at this point now. But who knows?
I think that only will happen in a spin-off in a time skip.
Maybe.
You know?
Well, if there is a spin-off, maybe they could change it then. That would be the perfect reason to do it. But who knows? I mean, personally, I still think this show, as it is right now, with these characters at this age, I still think there's so much more that this show could do. And I'm like, I would like a reboot one day. Not because this show hasn't been good, because it has. It's been very good. But I still think there's so much more it could achieve, so much more it could do with these characters, with this world, you know. And there's another thing: the franchise has had not enough merchandise at all. Like, where are the video games, the board games, the card games, the clothing, you know, the accessories, you know, the toy lines? We haven't had any. We've had hardly any of that in most of the world. You know, it's not like with SpongeBob where they've really gone all out to promote this franchise. They really haven't bothered with the Loud House in the same way. And I think, like, this franchise could become an empire one day, like a big modern stamp of pop culture. But it just didn't. It's been a moderately successful show, but I feel like Nickelodeon never really pushed the ball with it. Like, they never really went for it. And it's like everyone's just sort of accepting, yeah, it's a pretty good show, but I kind of wanted it to become something special, you know? But that's why I would like one day for there to be a reboot that helps the franchise achieve those heights. Because I feel it could reach them. And personally, I'd love to be the one writing for it.
Yeah, that would be very
I've spent years writing for the show and writing all my stories to resemble episodes and specials of the actual series. Right down to the structure and the tone and the pacing and the character work and everything. So I don't see why I couldn't. You realize you can actually speak to some of the staff if you approach them in a certain way on Instagram. I've spoken to the likes of Andrew Brooks and Whitney Wett and all that a few times over, and Jeff Sayers and Colton Davis. Only very brief interactions, but I actually got Whitney Wett to look at a couple of my posts as well. That was pretty cool. I did a review of No Time to Spy, which of course she was the main writer of, and she favorited it, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I suppose we'll leave it there. It's been really fun talking to you. We've sort of gone on a tangent as it's gone on, but that's fine. We always do that in these. It's been really fun speaking to you, Alejindio, and I'm sure I'll have another commission for you fairly shortly.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you please repeat that last thing?
Yeah, so I was just sort of like ending the podcast. So basically, it's been really fun talking with you, Alejindio. And I'm sure I'll have a commission with you soon.
Look, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
In my debut mail, I'm called Alejindio. That was the very first name because I'm Guatemalan and we say Indio and I start Alejindio. But most of all, the name I use the most is AlejinZX.
Your Instagram name, yeah.
Yeah. No, just for interrupt. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. We were just ending the podcast. So thanks for joining us. I'm sure I'll have another commission for you soon. And to everyone listening to this podcast, I'll see you guys next time.